Looky here. Look what the cat drug in. My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor, Martin. And DeMay is going to be out tonight. He has been dealing with some shit and health related things. And so anyway, we forced him to go to bed. I'm like, DeMay, go to bed. Go to bed. Kind of like that. I'd say that's fairly accurate to the way we did it. There may have been a bit more colorful language, but it is what it is. And then for the time being, Ray is taking care of some business. So y'all are going to have to deal with me and you know who, and that is Lushy of Lush Lawns. Sir, how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing good. How is everyone out in great YouTube land doing?
For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, Lushy and I go way back. We've known each other for a long time. We've known each other personally for a long time. There are not a lot of people that are still alive that have drunk with me until the sun has come up. And you know what? Lushy is alive, and he is one of those people.
I did.
Yeah. So this is rare brotherhood bonding have Lushy and I achieved, and that was actually a good time. That entire weekend was a good time. Was that Longology that we did?
That was Longology.
It was,
yeah.
And we burned it down.
Dude, that was at that little sleazy hotel. That's when everybody got along.
That was I was drinking 4, 5, 6 White Russians by 8 o'clock in the morning to give a presentation,
and they were excellent presentations, by the way.
I appreciate that.
It did wake me up because I was half hungover with somebody that I'd met. Who's that tree and palm guy?
Yeah, fucking Hernandez.
Yeah, Hernandez.
Yeah,
he and I would go out and a bunch of the other guys and go walking up and down the strip and losing the guys and just come back. I think I came back at like 5 a.m. one morning. My alarm went off that it was 5 o'clock to get up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, uh-oh, we have class at 8. So I went back in the room and ate my chocolate cake I had gotten from Denny's across the street. Slept for 2 hours, got up, forced myself with a coffee and went to class. And I think you came yelling in at like 9:30, 10 o'clock and probably woke the room back up.
Yeah, I had to stop at the pool bar there and get a few in, ramp up the hair of the dog in order to get ready to whatever. I think I don't remember doing lots of presentations on herbicides, whether it was pre-emergence or post-emergence, nuts edge, all kinds of stuff. I was doing presentations on. And I mean, hey, look, when you're out of town and you're in your element with a bunch of lawn guys and you talk about things you like to talk about, what's it to you to have 12 by 12? You know what I mean? I mean, it is what it is. As long as you hold your shit together and you can still smile and you can still talk coherently, it's game on.
I think we did 36 of the little baby Coronas that night.
We did do 36 of the baby Coronas. I'm not gonna lie. That was a lot of baby Coronas, and they just kept showing up and they kept disappearing at an unreal speed. That was weird.
David Watkins was there.
David Watkins. We have Turf Nerd, who's around here. So I'd say around here somewhere. But the OG Turf Nerd, whose business is actually called Turf Nerd, is the David Watkins. And I have a song that whenever David calls me, I answer the phone and I say, David fucking Watkins. I sing it every time. And he has the same answer every time. He goes, Matt, that is beautiful. And it's how we've kicked off every phone conversation we've ever had. It's funny how that works, right? So Lushy, anyway, great to have you back on. Thank you for coming on. And I'm sure we're gonna dive in a bunch of shit. And my goal today, by the end of this, is I don't know. I honestly don't know what you're coming at us with, right? I caught a little bit in the car on the drive home of what y'all were talking about on the pre-show. I didn't catch the end of it there, and so I'm curious, what are you bringing to us today? And since you have just my undivided attention right now, I want to take advantage of this to give you my opinions and ram them down your throat with as much veracity as possible because I can.
Well, I did have a little outline of what I wanted to do, and for Demay's health, we made him go to bed, and that was one of the things we actually talked about in the pre-show. Was potentially using wetting agents at a property because they're having a water issue. Their complaints are that there's too much water being used. It's too expensive. Is there, something that we can do to fix that? And DeMay, with his amazing abilities, quickly went over, here's how you can locate wells around you. And we're actually going to bounce back, I think, in a couple weeks and actually do an episode on that.
Yeah, I was catching that, and let me tell you though, you do not have any experience treating this property though, right?
No, no, no. So this
Okay.
was a reach out from my old boss,
Uh-huh.
and he says, "Hey, can you go take a look at this? Tell me what you think. I know what it is, and it's
Do you
typical,
do you do you want to know what my opinion is?
Sure,
I think the guy is full of shit and he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about. I'm going to be I told you, I'm coming with the thunder today. I'm coming with veracity. I think he's full of shit and he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's new sod, right?
yeah. I think that place is 4 years old, 5 years old.
And probably has not been on a good aggressive fertility program up to this point. It's
No,
been on
they use
it's been on the
the
contractor program.
yes, yep, your big box retail, Site One, Target, whoever it might be. I know they used to use Site One, and it's
Mhm.
their 5-step program, and that's what it gets.
Great. Okay. That tells me absolutely everything I need to know. And so what that tells me is that all the information you're getting from them is fucking nothing. Means nothing.
Yep.
And it was like, can we pull up that picture real quick? And DeMay caught this as being foot traffic, and I 100% agree. Um, is that new mulch that they just put down?
Uh, I don't know. I don't think no, they haven't mulched yet. They were probably in doing like the spring cleanup, so that they were like that does look like new mulch. That would
It
be
looks like
early
new
though.
mulch, or maybe they put it down in the fall before, and that would make sense
Maybe.
too, right? So they put it down after the grass has stopped growing, and that grass looks trampled to holy hell. And you've done enough landscaping to know
Hmm.
that when you get a crew of 8 guys out there throwing wheelbarrows of mulch all over the place, and then people coming behind it and spreading it, right? I mean, everywhere around the where the mulch meets the grass just gets beat to holy hell. And like you said, it
So
hasn't greened up
they
100% yet, right?
yeah, no, it hasn't. It's they use a bark blower too, so that
Perfect.
limits actually a little bit of traffic,
Y perfect, and,
but it makes it
I
hot.
still think that this is from that whatever however they did that, I think this is a result of that, and it hasn't fully greened up yet, and so that's what you're seeing, and they're having a panic attack about it. Now, where I was going into the fertility thing and why they don't know what they're talking about needing an excessive amount of water, to keep it green, is that how much are they trying to watercolor into it versus fertilize color into it? You see what I'm saying?
Right. Well, we have a
Like,
soil report. We have a soil
wh-
test.
perfect, perfect. How about we just dive on into that sumbitch? Oh,
Mhm.
zoom out. Now we zoomed in.
Surprisingly, the
Mhm.
pH is good.
There's nothing about this that is going to limit color that I see off the top of my head, except for your sulfur is a tad bit low, right?
Yep.
Your
It's
pH is
this
great.
is yeah, it really is.
Stupid high in
Uh,
phosphorus, but that's okay.
Probably from being smashed with starter fert a million times,
Uh
you
huh.
know,
Uh huh.
from seeding. Your
Uh,
potassium is low, like normal around here.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
actually that's elevated. We usually don't even get them that high.
So, and potassium isn't a color limiter, right? So,
Nope.
if they're worried about keeping this green, to me, it sounds like mistimed nitrogen is what is going down, right? That is in my opinion, and I would bet more money than not on this that what they perceive to be a water issue is actually a nitrogen management issue. Okay, um, it has fairly good organic matter, so I would expect a certain amount of nitrogen release from that, and the fact that they aren't getting it is it's either going to be mismanagement of nitrogen and timing, or just really really shit cultural practices. But I doubt it's that bad, right? I mean,
No.
you know what you're going to get with contractors, right? It is what it is. There's
Yeah,
nothing
I mean,
here that's really
it
limiting growth or color.
no. Nope, I mean, there's nothing. I was at, and that's why we did the soil test to see what's going on. Let's look under the hood and see what's there. I know Dr. Shaddix likes to call it the bone marrow test, and I
Sounds
thought that was a
invasive.
little. I thought that was a little. I equate these more to like a blood test. You know?
Yeah, yeah, or maybe even a saliva test, a spit sample, right? It's not invasive. We're
Yeah.
not
I mean,
scraping the marrow out of bones yet. I guess there are
yeah.
some soil tests where it does get to that point, but it is what it is. So I'm not seeing anything that's limiting color there that is soil structure or not. Root structure, is foobarred, be damned. Not worried about that. That's not necessarily going to be a limiting factor on color sort of deal here.
Hmm.
I honestly believe they're trying to water color into this instead of fertilize color into it, and it's just not working appropriately for them. Now, here's the other thing: is the beautiful thing about grass being somewhat self-sustaining, right? Is that the longer period of time it is down, the more the root cycling effect gets to take place, and you're going to get better water management that ends up coming from it. Your water management capacity of your soil is actually going to improve just because you're getting a more developed root system. It's becoming more established. It's adapting to its environment a little bit better. Uh, uh, it's already got a fairly decent organic matter level. So at a 3.9 organic matter level, I mean, it's going to be able to absorb about as much moisture as it can hold, right? Unless that
Hmm.
3.9 is actually like a 5.9, and then it's become hydrophobic and is repelling water. But that's an easy thing to test. And do you know how to test hydrophobicity of water?
No.
A super simple thing that you can do is literally take like an eyedropper and drop it on the soil, and you just find a bare place there in the lawn. Make sure you can actually see dirt, and drop water on it and see, does it bead up on the surface and stay there, or does it percolate into the ground and disappear like water's supposed to,
Okay.
right? It,
No.
it would
Yeah.
be the
I've
difference if,
I've.
if you put a drop of water on your skin, it's going to bead, right? If you put a drop of water on
Hmm.
your t-shirt, I'll do over here. If you put a drop of water on your t-shirt, it's going to disappear, right? It'll percolate
Right.
into your shirt. So, in effect, it should look like that. You pull cores, all kinds of other stuff. Evie's saying, you could put it on the core. I would rather see it on the surface because there might be some layering there that takes place that causes that. But you can do that too. You can put it at different places of the core and see if there's a layering that's taking place there. That will dictate to you. So before you walk in there and start selling a wetting agent program or a water management program, right, and getting locked into this whole thing, and that is the service you're selling because that is what the contractor told you the issue is, and um, and then all of a sudden it's not as efficacious as it could be because it turns out it was actually a nitrogen management issue, not a
Hmm.
water issue, right? And then all of a sudden you got to look at that guy and be like, well, that's what I get for listening to you, jackass, right? And then it becomes a thing, right? Everybody's pointing fingers at one another, like, no, your wedding agent sucks. It's like, no, dickhead, my wedding agent is great. The problem is that you whiffed on this at the first time, and now we're locked into it for this dollar amount. Now we got to figure out how we're going to make it work on the back end, right? So, in my opinion, I would go after this and gather as much data on the front end to vet the feedback that he gave you, because I'm going to be cynical in the thing is that the majority of time when people tell me what the problem is before I go look at it, they're wrong, flat out. They are wrong. And a lot of times, even the shit I have in my head when I'm there and I'm looking at it, I'm wrong. And then I go back, I think about it, I take a picture of it, I look at the picture, I go through the Rolodex of different experiences I've experienced while out in the field, and I'm like, oh man, fucking A, I bet that's what it is. It's like DeMay calling that Foot traffic damage. I mean, it
Right.
immediately alarm bells went off in my head. I was like, man, I did not get there yet. And I with the condition
And
that mulch looks, I guarantee that's what it is.
the other thing, I mean, we this year we did not have a very snowy winter, but that's also where snow gets piled. You know, when they plow, that all that green space now is where all the snow gets stockpiled.
Wow. Okay.
You know,
Okay.
so I mean that it has that effect to it. You know, I mean they're going to push that off. I mean, I've been in those complexes where I've was it 2015? I was plowing for them in a different complex, and the snowbanks were 4 to 5 feet high. You just
I
could
mean,
not.
do you see? I mean, it almost even wraps the surround of the bed there. Like as you get out towards the tree, you see it starting to wrap around, and then you start moving into darker green as you get out there towards the road, right? Towards the road or to the
Yep.
driveway, and then to the walkway going up. Now, part of that's heat, right? Where it's greening
Yeah,
up faster than the other
it's
area.
heat from that's exactly
Sure.
what, because you can see it over by the sidewalk where you would,
Mm-hmm.
further out, you can see how green that is because that's all the heat heating
And
everything
it,
up.
And based on the mulch that I see on top of that box right there, too, it wouldn't shock me if the homeowner got out there from time to time and raked the mulch back into the bed because a rain washed it into the grass, right? And it drives them
Yeah.
crazy, and they get out there and rake it up. That could have been what trampled it down. Point is that I don't look at that, and it would never ever get into my head that's a water issue. Now I don't live where you are, and so water issues aren't all that common around here. But I'm just going to say, do your due diligence, gather as much data as you possibly can before believing anything that person has to say. Whether they're even if it's me that's telling you this, right? That's why I'm trying to give you a test to fact check it to see whether or not that's it.
Gardner
You could
Earth
do
guy
that with
down
an
down in the
eyedropper.
Gardner Earth down there, and Paul's prime cuts, salt, right? So we do sand salt. They'd go out and just blast those things. They run the spreader down there, and the street spreader, and go right down there. So that's going to be another environmental impact on it in the winter. They're 100% right. Now, Jesse,
Yeah.
there's no sidewalks. It's pretty much just they walk in the street. I mean, it's a private community, really. There's nobody cutting through there. You can't cut through to anywhere. So anybody that's
Yeah.
going in there is generally just going in there.
Yeah, it looks like private community kind of deal, right? Little
It
little
is. It's
cookie cutter
quiet. It's quiet.
lawns. Yeah,
Yep.
probably mostly older folks. They love to
Yep.
go on their afternoon
Probably
walk.
is. Yep. And they can walk around there and off they go because the turnpike road is really busy. So there's
Uh,
nobody walking up and down that road to like walk into there or.
I think that pond behind it is a stormwater retention pond. Um, Based on the amount of impermeable surfaces, they probably designed that retention pond for to capture up to a 1 inch or more. I don't know what the stormwater laws in your area of Massachusetts are, but for instance, here, we have to retain on site a 1 inch rainfall based on the amount of impervious surface we have, right?
Mhm.
And it's a newer thing, and so all these new developments that you see going in, you design a retention pond of a certain size based on the amount of impermeable surface you have to be able to catch a 1 inch rainfall. It would not shock me if it's serving that purpose, right? So, or is that water
Yeah, I
all
don't.
the way around it? Is that an island? Is
No,
that like a peninsula?
that's a peninsula. That is
Oh,
water
that's
all
not a
around it.
stormwater retention
No,
pond. That's a damn
no, that's
peninsula.
a
That's the state of
it's a
Florida.
pretty much. It's a
Oh
state of
my.
Florida out there.
I'm
Hey,
going to eat my words
like
on
you
that one.
said, well, you work through it, right? That's why we came. That's why we brought it up. We wanted to look at it, and
And when DeMay comes back, and I'm interested to learn about this because I had no idea that wells like that were public knowledge. That's crazy to me.
it's
Kind of
that was
frightening to me.
freaky.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea that
Legitimately,
you
yeah.
could here's a guy in Ohio just kind of creeping on your well,
Right,
knowing your output.
Yeah, just sending you letters in the mail, sir. We're going to tap into your well because we have a neighborhood that is requiring more water than we care to pay for. Okay. Um, Anyway, that's my thought on that, and I think we can do a little bit deeper dive into it. That'll give you some time to continue to
Hmm.
mess around with it and see what you come up with, and then also in the meantime to hear what Demay has to say about that with irrigation and well reporting that just exists out there, which is again insane to me. That's crazy. He was like, "Yeah, what's the? We don't need to worry about the drill ID number right now." I was like, "They have a drill ID number? What is going on?"
It's dude, that is. I had no idea.
Me neither. A 24-hour depletion test? I was like, what is this? They hook up to it for 24 hours and run it dry? How long does it take to reprime? It's
And that's
frightening.
what he's saying. You need to know how much ground. I mean, that was my initial thought was
What if
like
it
put a
doesn't
well in.
come back?
Well, that place shouldn't have a problem. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
surrounded by water.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a pretty deep body of water. I've never really seen that thing. They drained it down one time because they were working on the dam when I was working up for that company. So everybody around that whole pond did all their work to their retaining walls that were abutting it and got all that done, and then they let it fill back up. But that thing always has water. So that was my first thing. Like you're going to recoup your costs. Like Demay saying you might be looking at 4 or 5 years to recoup it. That complex is going to be there for 40 years.
It's
So you
already
might have to
irrigated,
put it.
though.
It's already irrigated. Yeah, it might take some
So,
repiping
yeah, I mean,
to get
I wonder, like, how close can you drill the well to your existing
your main
mainline
line
backflow? Yeah.
right, and just put a
Yeah,
and put a little.
literally,
I
you just
want.
got to run a ball valve and a connection to it, and then you're done.
Yep.
Did you,
So those are
let me
some
let me
some
let me ask your
questions.
preference on this. Are you a fan of the turn ball valves, or would you use a big ass brass with the yellow handle ball valve, a banjo
Oh,
valve?
big. Yeah, you got to use a
You got to do the
yellow handle.
banjos, right?
Yeah,
Aren't they
no
nice?
gate, no gate valve. You can't do a
Uh-uh.
gate valve. Those
Those are
no,
trash.
those break.
Oh, just the worst. They're awful. They wear out too quick. Seals are terrible on them. You got to use a big ass
Big ball
brass one.
valve.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I'm glad we're on the same team on that. It's a difference. There's a difference there. For anybody that's listening right now that doesn't know what we're talking about, go to um uh Rural King, or yeah, you probably have to go to Rural King. I can get some brass valves. You can get some small ones at like Home Depot and stuff.
Yeah, you can.
Go pick them up, turn them, see which one feels better. If it feels better, it is better. That's all I'm saying. Uh,
So what, like my day job, the water department, we got to change a meter, and we'll say, hey, can we turn this valve? They're like, yeah, go ahead. And we're like, all right, well, if it breaks, because it's an old gate valve from 1922, that's original in the house or older, it could break. Well, how's it going to break? It could break closed. It could break open. We don't know. And I had one guy, he went right over, started turning the thing, and it was broken open, which was fortunate because he could still have water. But like, you need to call somebody because if you ever have a leak, you can't shut your water off in your house.
oh, and
He's
it's
like,
their
oh,
responsibility to
it's their
repair that.
responsibility. We own this little tiny piece in the middle. That's the meter. Uh, Out to the street is their responsibility. Everything in the house is their responsibility. We own this one little. They've told
You're
me horror
kidding
stories.
me.
Yeah, they've told me
That's
horror stories where they've
interesting.
broken a meter and it broken that valve, and they're just like, oh, well, we got to go. Call a
I,
plumber.
so it's I guess it varies by state, because anything
State,
past the
town.
meter belongs to the city, town, state, county, whatever here
Yep.
in Tennessee. So
Uh, it's. I see it both ways. I think we should own it to
in
the
the
other side of the
main
meter.
the main cutoff is actually on the meter itself. It's part of the meter.
Okay, it's part of the meter.
Yeah, and you got to use one of the water keys, right, to turn it off.
Yep.
And so yeah, I don't mind getting out there and monkey with it. I turn it on and off all the damn time. In fact,
Yes, you should.
we had a pipe
You should
freeze the
work
other
your
day.
valves.
Yeah, we had a pipe freeze the other day, and we were granulating and couldn't get any water at the pen mixer, and I was like, man, what is going on? Why can't we get any water? And John walked into the office because he was frustrated, and there was like 3.5 inches of water in the office that was dripping from the ceiling, and he came and he got me. And I, of course, had to go turn it off. And it was a super easy fix. Took like 10 seconds. I went and got a shark bite. Done in no time. It was great. What else you got? Pull out your outline. Ray's here. Good. Now we
Ray
get
is
to
here.
double
Back.
show you zero bedside manner and be nice and hostile towards you.
Jay Pink, why don't can you pull up the I guess the pictures and the Ray's in. Nope, Ray's back.
He'll be back.
Of I think it's Farm Street, Farm Road.
I'm looking.
It was the first batch that I sent you at the
Oh,
top.
I was way too.
The first batch. Lord have
Yeah,
mercy.
you sent me a lot. You want the soil test first or the pictures?
Pictures.
We can do the soil. We can do pictures. That's fine. Whatever you want. We got it all. I
want the
tried to
pictures
come
first.
prepared. So this is right up Ray's alley. This is something we run into.
Winter
Yeah.
dormancy.
Oh no. Well, yes and no. It's
Okay,
zoysia.
what is it?
Or zoysia.
Zoysia.
Yeah, it's zoysia.
Ah! Oh, man.
So it is winter
we got it.
dormancy. It's winter dormant zoysia.
It's going to be winter dormant until probably like June.
Yeah. So your thoughts are killing it, right?
Yes. Yep. We're going to do a
And
complete
then-
kill.
Mhm.
And then doing what with it? You're gonna reestablish a cool season grass in it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're going to go through.
So fescue.
Yeah, I think so. Something kind of a little easier, low maintenance, nothing too high. I think we might do a fescue.
Okay.
I got
Maybe-
that turf
maybe-
type
maybe a
note
little-
fescue, and
Little
With a
perennial
little blue
rye
in
in
it.
there.
we could.
Yeah,
We could do
fescue.
that.
And,
I mean, we
yeah, a fescue and rye mix.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's just more in line with a residential yard, unless they feel like putting in the level of work that a transition zone golf fairway would take. I mean,
Nope,
it's
not at this one,
Is that
because
not-
this is a rental property. So this is he
Oh,
wants
even
it to
more
look
so.
good. He just wants
and
clean, neat.
and simple
Wants the landscape.
and simple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
landscaper
I mean,
comes in
clean
and
units-
mows it, and
I
don't-
I just kill it and then broadcast perennial rye, because that's the beautiful thing about it, right? Is that as you kill the zoysia grass, that's going to become your seed bed, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever heard me warn anybody: do not do a rye overseed on zoysia grass. You can do it on Bermuda grass. Do not do it on zoysia grass. I have watched people absolutely rail zoysia grass into kingdom come, never to return back to its glory with perennial rye overseas before, because, like, for instance, you would see it in Augusta, Georgia all the time, because they want their zoysia to be green for the tournament. It hasn't fully greened up yet. And so 3 weeks out from the Augusta National Tournament, they're out there hammering ryegrass down and watering it to holy hell to get it to come up. And of course, it doesn't come up until May and is like thick as hell. And then by the time it's checking out, the zoysia is wanting to come out, but it's so ravaged because of the allolepathy of the ryegrass, it never does anything. It just looks terrible. Then they
Okay,
repeat it again
Lushy.
the next year. It becomes a disaster.
I got one more for you.
But you do need to treat it with herbicide. Don't get me wrong. And we can talk
Yes.
about that as well, too.
Yeah, you do kind of sort of need to. However, if you're doing rye, I know something about ryegrass that zoysia absolutely hates.
Barenberg.
No,
Oh, sorry.
during your
Everybody hates
during your
Barenberg.
during your your seeding and post-establishment maintenance, Lushy, start treating that area with progress.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because progress will make sure that the remaining zoysia is dead. Acifumicate is extremely harmful to zoysia, to the point where, should you accidentally apply it to a zoysia lawn that you intend to keep, you're not going to have that zoysia anymore in a year.
Okay.
It'll just slowly wither and decline and go away.
So we started
So,
off. We went into. I'll give you a little what we're doing, what I was thinking, and then you guys can smack me around and put me in the right direction. So we went with just our typical plan, which is some prodiamine on it. We did 6 ounce to the acre of sulfentrazone, 4 ounce to the
Mhm,
acre of mesotrione, 16 ounces to the acre of triclopyr,
mhm,
and that was with methylated seed oil as well. And
mhm,
then what we're doing is, because we need to do a pH correction and to keep it budget friendly, we're rotating. We're using a slow release fertilizer on round 1. Round 2, we're doing 12 pounds of lime. Round 3, we're going to do fertilizer. Round 4, we'll put lime in. So we're kind of like trying to, instead of doing a big bulk, we're trying to add it in and bring the cost up for another app. We're just kind of rotating that in. Round
okay,
2 is going to go down in a few weeks, and that'll be another app of sulfentrazone and mesotrione. So we're going to make it a little
mhm.
hotspot, not friendly for that zoysia to come out.
Well, you know what, Lushy, as I said, it's amazing how if you don't want Zoysia, there's ways to get rid of it, actually. However, don't ever think that you get rid of Zoysia by dropping down an app of glyphosate. That's not it. On the other hand, if you decide to do a rye overseed this fall and then
Yep.
use fumicate as your pre-emergent, then you got something. And oh, by the way, one more little note about Zoysia as well. Never ever put Pylex or mesotrione on Zoysia either. Do not. Just saying.
Unless you're okay with it taking a big hit and dying, right? If that's your
Yeah.
Yeah.
goal, then by all
If
means.
that's
No.
if that's your intent. In other words, Lushy, I'd almost want to tell you, send Lushy Junior over there again with the Primogreen and the tenacity. Do that one again.
Just use the super fun rate,
Yeah.
super fun site rate.
Mhm.
No,
Yep.
Zoysia is for our customers. There's not
Zoysia.
something that Zoysia. We got to find use those
Where's
R's
the R
somewhere.
in it? Yeah.
It came from the car. We got it from the car, and we put it in the Zoysia. And it's like when I put it in banana.
Mhm.
A banana?
Banana. Freaked you out that morning, didn't I?
It is. I'm
Yep.
reading the word Zoysia right now. Zoysia, and I do not see the R, but it could be my eyes. I'm getting old, Lushy. I'm getting old.
It's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
It's
I-
there. It's
I-
when
actually,
you come up north, it's in there. It's a different variety.
It's a different type, and you see that type is most common closer you get to the Canadian border.
Yes. Yep.
There are, so if I recall correctly, there is now there is generic ethofumicate. Looks like
Mhm.
Willowwood has a turf label that you'll be good to go on. And here,
think-
Lushy, I'll share this with you just so you have access to it. I was doing a little price checking here, and this seems to be a fairly good looking price. And I
may have it in-
attention on this.
I may have it in stock.
Oh,
Yeah, because isn't that like part of your program to like reduce bent grass as well? I believe it is. Lush.
No, I haven't used it for that, but
It is something that you could have kept in mind, because I remember us talking about that previously, where you can use ethofumicate for a number of purposes in your area. I mean, it's fantastic on the various POA species, and also, now more significantly, that is your way or your path to removing zoysia and keeping it from coming back. Because you see, my concern with zoysia is that unless somebody has a plan in place, out of all of the invasive grasses, that is the one most likely to come back.
So
Yeah,
my
without a
Out of
doubt.
all of it.
my plan was to do a long kill on this, which was to do like a mesotrione glyphosate multi-step attack at it, to prepare. Now knowing that ryegrass is not its friend, we can add that into it, and we can use the ethylfumicate as our pre-emergent for that as well. So should I mix the
I'm
ethylfumicate
wondering.
into the glyphosate?
Yeah,
You can. You
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
and,
yeah.
in fact, if I'm remembering the label on the ethylfumicate correctly, ethylfumicate can be used as your pre-emergent during ryegrass establishment. Rye is
Yes.
that tolerant of it to where you can lay down the label rate of ethylfumicate right before you seed your rye. And of course, the crabgrass and whatever is screwed. Of course, the POA is screwed, but then the ryegrass will come through that nice and clean. How's that, Lushy?
Okay. There we go.
Ethylfumicate may be applied pre-emergent as pre-emergents to new seedlings of annual or perennial ryegrass or post-emergents to perennial ryegrass. So there you go. Let's see. Apply ethylfumicate after seeding and prior to weed emergence. For best results, apply to moist soil. Apply 1.5 to 3 pints per acre. Use a lower rate for control of common chickweed. For control of rat-tail fescue, wild oats, volunteer cereals, and other weeds listed, use 2.25 to 3 pints. New seedlings following emergence and after sufficient rainfall and/or overhead irrigation has occurred to dissipate the. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That's for using charcoal. Anyway, there you go. So seed it as soon as it's up. You're good to spray it. And in that same vein, the other thing I was going to say too. So say you go out first with your well, it doesn't say what the timing is of seeding after application. I'll link to it. You can look it up. I'm sure it's in here and
Okay.
it'll tell you. But say you go out even with just glyphosate first, right? Knock it all down. Beautiful thing about Zorge is going to leave a perfect seed bed for you. Like you don't have to worry about getting out there with you can, don't get me wrong. You can get out there with your dethatcher. I approach everything the laziest way possible. I'm not gonna go dethatch or run a zip seeder across a Zorja lawn in reverse like I do in other instances, right? Like, no, not in Zorja, not unless I had like someone there changing blades for me on the fly because it'll eat it to nothing. But you can just broadcast seed right over top of it and you're golden, right? So, yeah.
All right. Easy enough. Might do, and that zoysia, there's some shady areas, so it's not as prevalent there. So we might slice seed around those and maybe not work so hard into that zoysia with it.
Sure, but the
Now, you
beautiful thing
saying that
about
be-
perennial ryegrass is that I have done a shit ton of perennial ryegrass overseedings on warm season grass. Do you know how many I have ever slit seeded or aerated?
0.
Yeah, 0.
Is my guess.
0. Just broadcast over the top. That's the beautiful thing about ryegrass is that it
grows anywhere.
grows.
Yeah. It grows anywhere. I mean, yeah, you don't need to do all
grows.
of this special stuff with it. I mean, that's how wonderful rye is that just, spread it out, make sure it gets watered, and you're golden. It's easy grass.
So that might
What
be an
else?
option. Might do rye.
Mhm.
I did. There is one I wanted to show you that we did a renovation last year, which is rye. We went with easy, and that was that last batch I sent you, J Pink. But I wanted to show you that we could actually grow grass on our, poor soil that you think is the surface of Mars.
It's not far
You
from
pull
it.
up, Old Farm Lane soil report. We'll let Matt look at that. No, not that one. But there's a Lush Lawns
though.
customer on the left, and a non-Lush Lawns customer on the right with their African violet going
farm?
absolutely wild.
Oh,
It's
okay.
no,
Okay.
yeah, and there is a straight beaming line of clean.
It is beautiful.
You said last batch, but farm is definitely the first batch.
Oh, was that the? Hold on, I'll
Farm
look and
is the
see.
first batch. This photo
Old,
we're looking
old,
at. Do you mean Old
uh,
Elm?
Old Elm. Sorry, my
That's
bad.
this.
That was near the end.
This is
No,
this
that's
is
not
what you
that.
marked as Old Elm. Unless
Oh, look
this
at
is
this.
supposed to be Old Elm.
That's Old Elm.
Okay.
Both of them were total smoke shows. Look at them. This is gorgeous.
So this property was a full blown kill and renovation last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much this area right here on the right is what's left because that whole driveway drains right down to that area. So we kept
I was
having
gonna
erosion.
Yep.
So we actually that little looks like a tire mark off the driveway was from a straw swaddle that I put in to try to divert the water over to where the grass had established for over the winter.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of it in there, just to try to divert it a little bit.
Sure.
But it's starting to wake up and thicken up. But if you go through at one point, there's
some hairs in there.
Yep. But out in that backyard, there are 3 drains, and we had just slice seeded this whole thing, and we got about a 2-inch rainstorm that came through, and there was about a foot of water.
Ah! Doesn't that make you sick to your stomach when you pull up and you see that? And you're trying to convince yourself it's okay. You're like, this is okay. It's going to be okay.
It's fine.
Okay. This is probably
it's just going to take
that straw swaddle.
I love that. That is creative and great use of that. That's actually really, really good use of that.
So just to try to divert the water to get it over there,
Sure.
I knew it was going to build up or just slow it down a little bit. I'm like, all right, I can try to control it a little bit. Keep going. You got to move the slideshow. You can do it, Jake.
I'm trying, but some of these I think even though you sent them in a certain order, they got arrived
jumbled about
to me in a different order.
So this is what this lawn looked like coming out of winter. This was the beginning of March. So I kind of went and checked on it to see what it was going to look like, and
I don't think is this the same one here?
Yeah, so you can see the water. No, it's the same house. You can see the water in the backyard.
Damn it, boy. Is that your bobcat out there too?
That's a barred bobcat that we put we put like 60 yards of loom. No, we had to put 60 yards of loom around the perimeter because we expanded it a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that underwater, all seeded. I was absolutely like, are you kidding? Each one of those wooden stakes is where the drain is. And we had put fabric. Yeah, they're underwater. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And it came in beautiful. I figured it was like, it was pre-germinating.
Yeah.
That's how it came in.
It was. That was a subsurface pre-germination route you took there.
Yeah.
And
wow.
It worked great. I mean, that's gorgeous. Those drains did not move shit, did they?
Well, because we had put fabric over them so that they wouldn't fill up with debris from us doing what we were doing in case it rained. I didn't want his drains to clog.
Yeah. Smart.
So after it kind of got established, we went and took it out, and then it drained fine.
Okay.
Nice.
I was concerned that the drain pipes were plugged. I was like, oh shit.
No. Yeah, that was my big
root it.
I was like, no, I don't want to dig it all up. So I put it up. I put this up mainly just to try to, maybe some of the new guys that are out there that go out and do a renovation, and that you saw that first ugly picture when you show up and it's rained on it, and be like, no, it's going to grow. It will. You got to just give it a little time.
Look, and here's the other thing. Lushy has done several clutch things here that come with just experience, right? And what Brent is taking credit for the straw swaddle, and regardless, two get between him and Lushy, two guys
might
both have a significant amount of experience. One, covering the drains so they don't fill up with erosion, right? Smart. It's smart. That comes with experience. That's good thinking. That's good planning and good execution. And it worked. And it paid off for you. Otherwise, you would have a foot of dirt that collects in that black corrugated pipe. And I don't know if you've ever tried to empty corrugated pipe that does fill up. And let me tell you, it is not fun. You will not you will not empty it. You just will not
You pull it, you dig it out and put a new one in.
That's exactly what you do. And it'll weigh so much that you'll have to pull it out with a crane. You will have to bring in a tree crane and hoist this thing out of the ground and make sure it's powerful enough to lift, 20 to 90 tons, and that you've got a seasoned crane operator behind it. Otherwise, you'll never get it up. It's unbelievably heavy, and they're foobarred. So not only did Lushy save the drains, he saved that guy a monumental amount of money by being able to do that. Then the other thing is, how simple is that to just use a couple stakes and a straw bale there to divert the water around it, right? And you can get those things at Home Depot. Chances are, with the way stormwater management has exploded across the country in the last, 10 years, there's more emphasis on this, and guarantee if you live in even a remotely sized city that you're going to have some sort of distributor that sells stormwater remediation or stormwater retention products there, and you're going to find things like that that are there. If you can't find that, anything you can do to divert the water around it, right? Even if that means just using hay bales and driving stakes through the hay bales, if you're that worried about it. But chances are hay bales are heavy enough that you're not going to wash them anyway. So, but again, another creative solution to help the long-term success of the effort that he put into it there, and reduced the amount of touch-up that he need to do from potentially 6,000 square feet down to maybe 60 square feet, right? And that's a significant cost savings and a significant difference. And you know what the homeowner sees? Homeowner sees someone that, fuck, this guy knows what he's doing. I never would have thought of that. Or the last guy that was out here, sure as shit wouldn't have done that. He was, every time he showed up, he had a joint behind his ear and a blunt behind his other ear. Like, that guy didn't give a shit about my yard. Lushy does, though.
The good old days. That was the good old days.
A joint and a
However, here's the thing: is that by thinking ahead like this, you basically save a lot of money and time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, by the way, you fuck up his drains, guess who's going to pay for it? Right, Lushy?
Yep.
Guess who's going to pay for that stuff? I mean, and I frequently see and hear of instances like this where shortcuts were taken, care was not taken. It's all about banging out this job as fast as it'll go, but then in the meantime, a mess is made and somebody has to clean it up. And so that's where, hats off to you, because I like seeing work like this where, as much as possible, a mess is not made. And
We tried. Now
it might make the
the
job take a
Bobcat-
little longer, but
unbeknownst to me, the Bobcat had a hydraulic leak, and while we were working in
Oops.
the dirt, we had no idea. But when we drove all over the driveway, it dripped everywhere.
Oh, zoom.
Fortunately, he did not freak out. He didn't say anything. I saw it, and I'm like, all right, if I can buy time and we can get through the winter, it'll be gone. And when I went back in March, that was actually why I was back to look to see if it was there, and all the spots were gone.
golden.
I was so excited. I was like, I do not have to seal coat this driveway. It's like 200 feet long.
I've never seal coated a driveway. I don't want to do it. What's next?
Not. Let's see. We want to pick apart my fert. You want to go through that?
Yep.
All right. J Pink, show him. I sent you some pictures of FERT. I think they were near the end. So this is our newest blend, which is a mix of ammonium sulfate and urea, no slow release,
Love it.
and sulfate of potash, because we're finding that we have low potassium and we're low in sulfur in a lot of our soil
Mhm.
tests.
Yep,
So
and that
using those,
I can tell by looking at that is made up. The majority of it is from urea. So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, this
I
is
have
a
nothing bad to
beautiful
say about that.
mix. Yeah.
We got
And
a
we got our
triple 19.
triple 19, not
Little
great.
basic triple 19. Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
That works fine.
So
Not-
we use this
not
on an account that needs a little phosphorus. Could we come through one that might need it here or there? So we'll supplement this in on a couple apps,
Nice, nice. And
and then
something like that makes a huge difference. Okay.
now this is the one we had made up last year, and we're going to use this during the summer.
So 4, so that would 5, that would be 20 25% of your N is from methylene urea and organic sources. 50% is going to be from polymer coated urea. So we're looking at what is that? 16.5. Let me do here. 16.5 divided by 20 is that is 82.5% slow release. That is a very slow release product. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's got a pinch of ammonium sulfate in there for a little bit of quick color. The methylene urea is from Neutralene. That's a good product. I think this is great. I know it's expensive as holy shit, but I know this is a great one.
Yeah, this is like a premium product, that's premium.
What is
So
this,
this
like
is
a $35, $36, $37
Yep.
bag of fertilizer? Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to use this when we hit, like our round 3, which will be June. So we'll be getting ready to start feeding slowly from June, July, and then August. We actually put this out. It's expensive. We put it out heavy, because we know we're going to get a long duration out of it through, and then we can feed it heavy, but with a quick release, the end of September, to really kind of bolster everything up.
Yeah.
Probably just run straight ammonium sulfate then.
Perfect.
Nice.
Yeah, this is fancy as hell. For anybody that's at home and is looking at this, this is one of those really, really nerdy blends that a lawn care guy comes up with after spending weeks staring at various labels and all kinds of stuff, of thinking, oh man, how do I hit all my release points, right? This is nerdy as shit, and I completely understand why we do this. For people that didn't see the other show, what Lushy is doing is that he has usually acidic soils out there, right? So he wants to get down lime, and so he's alternating fertility with lime applications, right? And that can be difficult because lime can interfere with urea in particular, and release. What is the word I'm looking at? Not nitrification.
Volatilization.
Yeah. Actually, it will make the urea become extremely volatile, because the urea is hydrolyzed by the lime and it gases off as straight ammonia gas, which evaporates and it's gone and you lost it. But if you have a slow release, and if you have polymerized urea like Neutralene or methylene urea or urea triazone, those products are not as reactive with lime. So they'll still be there to release their nitrogen to the turf. And versus if somebody just combines straight lime and straight urea together, you basically get a whole bunch of ammonia gas, and that's not retained in the turf.
Yeah,
At all.
and so the example is that I have seen people before do this, and in fact, I think it's really common among blenders now to add a one of those low rate limes they call it. What do they call it? Like the Magical product, the
Magical or
enhanced lime.
amp,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
enhanced lime or whatever, which is just a fine grind granulated lime, right? But
Mhm.
point being is that you'll see that as filler in blends now, right? Whether it's Aqua Aid or Magical or whatever, insert your brand of choice, and what is it, Super Cow or whatever is another one. Anyway, is that you'll get a bag that's like a 2504 or whatever, and it's like it's filled with this enhanced lime or whatever, and you're like, oh man, that's great, it's a twofer, right? I get to go out with my fertility, and I'm getting a little bit of lime down at the same time. But in reality, it's working against you because of the hydrolyzation of the urea that ends up occurring, and then you end up losing the majority of your nitrogen to atmosphere. I've even seen people, lawn care guys, being like, "Hey, I need to tackle this problem. How do I go about it?" I've seen them dump a bag of urea and a bag of lime in their hopper, mix it in their hopper, and then go spread it. And it. How many times I know, Lushy, you have seen that on the Facebook groups before, where lawn care guys like, man, I really, I'm between a pickle and a hard place here, and I've got both of these in my truck. I'm going to go ahead and do it, and I'll report back what happens. And then assholes like me will come in there and fight with you and be like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot. Don't ever do that again. In fact, the second time I almost got banned from the Facebook group, which was like 3 days after being allowed back into it after a 3-year hiatus. I told the guy exactly that. I was like, that's a bad idea. It's working against your urea. And he was like, well, I only did it this one time. I'm like, okay. He's like, it's not hurting anything. Like, I didn't say it's hurting anything, but what I said is that you're wasting your money and your effort, and you're gassing off all your nitrogen, so don't do it. And anyway, I about got banned for that.
Yeah, you got banned again because it's this is also why
Jim's new group, I'll call it.
Yeah, this is kind of why I always harp on
good questions
on pH management, Lushy, is that the opposite can happen. Where do you know what happens when you try to throw anything urea based on soil that has a pH over 7?
No.
Okay, here's what happens. You just wasted all of your time and money. If your soil is pH over 7 and you start throwing down urea-based fertilizer on that high pH soil, I've literally seen it with my own eyes. I mean, I had somebody that diligently would go out, buy fertilizer, spread it, and they said, hey, the grass turns green for a week, and then it turns back to gray. What the hell's happening here? Check their soil. pH is about 7.6. They have a pH 7.6. And their grass does not respond normally to fertilizer until I hammer down that pH. But what I'm saying, or my point is that, when people mix urea and lime together, they are temporarily creating that high pH condition on the soil surface at the time of application. You're temporarily creating it. So
how long do you think that? I mean, a couple weeks, a week,
a month.
Yeah.
It lasts at least a month, Lushy, and that month is a conservative estimate that depends on how much irrigation and rain hits that area after you do that lime. So if you have like a dry or dryish time where the area is not getting at least an inch of water per week, it might take longer. You might have that high pH condition on the soil surface for 2 months or 3 months.
Eventually, the lime will buffer out, right? Like because you have acidic soil, it's acting as a buffer, right? It's going to react with
Yeah.
the hydrogen in your soil, and then eventually be gone, right? And it's
Yeah, it'll
obviously
take
it's
time,
a
but
function of how long it takes for that lime to react with it, and the fastest way to get it to react with it is with water, right? So
yeah, lots of
Right.
water, tons of
So-
water, and so
On that, I'm gonna sidetrack us here. On that same thing though, look, I know Busy and I have talked about it, how we get stumped on buffer pH. So you will see, I will get a soil test back that says um, they got a 5.7 or 5.2 pH, but you only need to put down 35 pounds per thousand because their buffer pH is at a 6.8 or something.
yeah, it's the resistance to it's the resistance for the pH to move, right? So the higher
there's one
the
right
buffer
there.
your pH, the easier it is to move your pH up.
Okay.
So if you had a soil pH of 5.5 and a buffer pH of excuse me, had a sneeze, and a buffer pH of 5.5, then all of a sudden that 35 pounds of lime becomes 75 pounds of lime, right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
yep. And you
Okay.
also can see that in your CEC
See how low it
number.
is?
Yeah, you see how low that is? Because I'm looking at a soil with a CEC under 15, and for me, that is marvelous soil. Actually, that's marvelous.
I very rarely see it above 12.
Oh,
Please let them
because
tell you. Please let them tell you with that CEC of 5.9 that you have clay soil. Please let them tell you that,
yeah,
and
because
then slap them.
Now,
kick their butt hard. Yeah, kick their butt hard, because the thing is that when you have this low of a CEC, this means that whatever you're applying is not bound to the cation exchange sites and is available to the grass otherwise. This is a very beautiful thing, because let me tell you what it's like having to deal with soil with a CEC above 15. It's a miserable experience.
It's harder.
To say the least.
Everything's harder, right?
Harder, and you may
Requires more
think
of it. How about that? It requires more of everything. I think is a more accurate way to put that.
more. However, here's the thing about more. You get to the point where your CEC is so high that you're better off applying everything foliarly so that you don't deal with the soil at all.
mhm.
But in your case, this is a soil test where I tell you, okay, here's your program. Get your pH to about 6. Throw down the 111, call it a day. Honestly. Honestly.
And here's another thing too. So, and this might be a lingering question for you, or it might be for someone else. Okay, you just limed the holy shit out of a yard. You've got something coming up, or someone's complaining about color. You need to get it to turn green again, right? How can you get down fertilizer and not waste all of it? Well, you can
Ammonium
spray.
sulfate.
No,
Yeah,
because then
foliar.
you're going against the buffer of the lime, right? You're effectively
Right.
quickly neutralizing your lime out, and then you're losing all efficacy of allowing it to react in the soil. Now it's reacting with the fertilizer, not your soil, because ammonium is going to release a whole bunch of hydrogen that is going to release with your lime, right? That'll react with your lime versus the lime reacting with the hydrogen in your soil. So yeah, make a foliar application, right? So low dose, spray it on, call it good, and you'll get that you'll get the color response without having to rely on as much of it to be taken up by the roots. Doesn't mean that you're going to get 100% efficiency through the tissue of the leaf. You're just not. So some of it's going to make its way, and you're probably going to lose some. But it's not to say that you're going to lose just an exceptional amount of it, right? It's not like making a granular application and then where you could get yourself into a pickle where you're not getting, and this is an arbitrary number I'm throwing out there, but you're only going to get 50% of what a typical response would be, right? Because you're losing it to ammonionization to the atmosphere. again, that's an arbitrary random number I'm pulling out of thin air. I'm not saying that's statistically accurate.
Mhm.
But anyway, by going foliarly, you're bypassing the soil, right? You're relying on the foliar uptake of it, and therefore you're not relying on you're limiting the amount of urea that can react with the lime, converting it into ammonia. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, it's
Yeah,
a good.
that would be the use case for those combined iron and urea foliar applications right there. I mean, this is your exact use case. Like, say somebody is, their titties are all upset because the grass is not as green as it needs to be. This is where you break out that old-fashioned product called Ferromic, which is iron sulfate and urea plus some sulfuric acid to keep it all in suspension, and you just spray that out, watch the grass turn green as you're applying, and everybody's happy. Seriously. And so there's kind of ways out of this. However, I always say that the long-term solution to having greener grass is get your pH in order. There's no substitute for doing that, because when people's pH is not in order, they are always going to be chasing color issues. The grass is always going to look off, because to my eyes, grass growing on excessively acidic soil has a certain look to it. It's not a healthy green.
Mm-hmm.
It always
green,
looks,
but it's lime green.
there's a tinge. No, there's a tinge to it. It looks sick.
So
There's a certain
I
tinge
have
to it.
I have really high iron soils. So I have
Mm.
what some people refer to as red clay, even though it's not
Mhm.
predominantly clay.
Mhm.
But it is. It's very, very red soil. So what I notice is that somewhere around 5.8 for me is great for tall fescue, because that slight acidity that's taking place there is working in your favor with the amount of iron you have in the soil, and the shit just stays green whether you put anything on it or not. Because
Ye-
I'm growing on red dirt, and it's red because of the iron oxide in it, right? And then maintaining it in an acidic state is helping facilitate the solubility of that.
Matt, in your area, do you have high manganese to go with that iron?
No, it's definitely not high. No,
Okay,
but it's
because
not low
in my
either.
area, no, in my area, the common problem is I'm looking at soils where that red in the soil is from manganese, actually.
Yeah.
And so if your soil pH drops below 6, the only
Manganese
thing that's going
toxicity.
to the only thing that's going to live in that soil is centipede grass.
Yeah.
Everything else is foobarred. So I kind of have to pay attention to pH. And then the other feature of tropical soils is aluminum toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's kind of where, again, I know for myself that once I go below 6, or actually once I go below 6.5, anything other than centipede grass is probably not going to have a good time
Yeah, I was going to
because of
say,
metal toxicity.
like, it starts to get real weird around here at 5.5 and lower.
Mhm.
And I always, if I could keep everything, a lot of times, just naturally, I could keep everything at 5.8, and I was crazy happy with it.
Mhm.
You did not get that yellow waning effect as your nitrogen ran out, and it's probably just due to the amount of iron we had in the soil. It would not have that same yellow effect as it wore off. It was just more of a gradual kind of fade out, not fade to yellow. It was a fade to just a slightly lighter shade of green. It was great. But as far as, like, as you start getting down to 5.5 and lower, that's where it just starts to get real weird altogether. It doesn't respond to fertilizer at all, and you get all kinds of bizarre growth patterns out of it. and a lot of times you do see higher aluminum levels around here, and probably a function of that is aluminum toxicity, because the more acidic you become, the greater the solubility of aluminum, the greater the solubility of all your metals, right? So acidity equals solubility of metals, and that's why, when you are, if you've ever seen the pH of ferrous sulfate in solution, it's 4.5. I mean, it's acidic, right? And
Extremely acidic, yeah.
if you
I see.
need to dissolve rust off of a driveway, or rust off of tools, what do you soak it in? Muriatic acid, something with an unbelievable amount of hydrogen in it, right? Hydrogen equals acidity is a basic way to look at that, in a very dumbed down, simple way. So and you can use those non-corrosive acids, right, that you'll see for tool cleaners and stuff. And what's funny is you test the pH on that, and the pH is 0. Literally, it'll be a clean 0. It's just not a corrosive because it's not a metal acid, right? Like sulfuric acid is going to be,
or phosphoric,
or phosphoric,
or nitric, or nitric, or
nitric.
something else nuts, something like that. So
Mhm.
the
All
other
of
thing
what
that
Ray is spraying on the lawn.
yeah,
to acidify.
But-
yeah.
but the other feature of acidic soils is that when your metals are in solution like that, what also happens is your phosphorus becomes way less available,
Mm-hmm.
because when your metals are in solution, they will rapidly react with any available phosphorus and form the insoluble and unavailable metal phosphate compounds and complexes. And so that's why when you flashed that last soil test up and I saw the phosphorus and I saw the pH, I immediately knew 111 in lime, because in my area, if I ever had a soil test that looked like that, what I'd be looking at, if it were not centipede grass, would be purple stunted Bermuda, or purple stunted St. Augustine, or even purple and stunted zoysia, because what would happen is the phosphorus in this particular soil is actually not as available as you think, because of that interaction between the metals in the soil being available at that low pH, and it just quickly reacting with whatever phosphorus there is and making it less available to the turf grass. So that's kind of why I know we talked previously and I said 34 parts per million of phosphorus in that kind of soil. I'm imagining that the grass is starving. Okay, it's actually starving. It's really suffering. I would be less concerned if that soil pH were 6 or higher. And in fact, the way to improve efficiency of your nutrient inputs is to always look at your pH first. What is your pH? I mean, is it about 6? Yes or no? Is it closer to 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5? If it is not between 6 and 6.5, there's work to do. You know, you got some work to do. And because here's what I frequently see in the industry and homeowners as well, is they have soil with that out of range pH. And rather than addressing that pH, what are they doing? They're putting down more and more shit on the soil that isn't lime.
Humid
I'm
acid.
wondering why. Yeah, and they're wondering why it's not helping, why it's not working. Yeah, it's because they have not addressed the fundamental issue. And here's one more fundamental issue. Calcium and magnesium are actually vital plant nutrients. Okay? They're plant nutrients. And so when I see soil that is acidic and its calcium and magnesium numbers are low, you've got things to do. For sure.
Definitely. Matt, I got a
Yeah.
question for you. I know
Yeah.
you're looking at something. So we're going to be starting our round 2, which we're running sulfentrazone 6 ounce to the acre, mesotrione at 4 ounce to the acre, with prodiamine, but we're also using prefix.
Okay.
So I pulled my MSO out because I know that prefix can be make it, I guess, a little hot or a little oily, or
Yeah, a little spicy.
makes it a little spicy, because I know we were running into we had a little tracking last year. So I pulled that MSO out. I'm just curious on your thoughts
What
on
what
that.
what were
Yeah.
your rates again?
Sulfentrazone 6 ounce to the acre, mesotrione 4 ounce to the acre, and the prefix is 44 ounces to the acre.
Yeah, I would still expect that sulfentrazone to be spicy.
Yep. It's still,
It's
we're
a, it's
lucky
a,
it's cool.
Okay.
it's a,
If
it's, go-
if
it's
if you're
gonna
cool, you should be okay.
it's gonna be a little brutal, but then I understand that in Lushy's case, he does need kind of a brutal tank mix because he's basically fighting volunteer bent grass.
It's
So
everywhere. Is
yeah, so the more brutal the tank mix, the better.
The why that gets a little hot is there's a bunch of really fine 10 nanometer silica in that, and at 10 nanometers the resistance to pass through the leaf is really low, and I don't know, is it pulling things with it? I have no idea, but it is multiple times I've seen that sprayed with herbicide and people have been like, whoa, that was hot. Also with the peptide material too, I've seen a lot of people spray it herbicide with that and say, whoa, that was hot too. So I don't know. You combine both of those, and then yeah, I could see where that could get fairly spicy fairly quickly, especially something hot like 6 ounces of sulfentrazone, especially something hot like
out of
6 ounces of sulfentrazone plus a methylated seed oil, just to say fuck you, and make sure everyone knows you've been there, as it's orange from Mars.
and there's no other way to spray it but out of a permagreen.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just keeping it real.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know, the what I would probably tell you is that at such a low volume application, I'd also be very careful with my surfactant rate as well, especially with something that tends to be on the more hot side like sulfentrazone. And in fact, if you happen to be applying at low volume, you almost don't want any additional surfactants because that can become a lot with the
It was
sulfentrazone.
we did all right. We did all right round 1.
Yeah.
It didn't torch it. We did okay. And we
Mhm.
actually pulled the sulfentrazone out on stuff that were like new lawn renovations, like the one we showed you there, that the yellow house that did not get any sulfentrazone.
Mhm. Sure. And that's just good practice to take out the hotter parts of the mix on recently seeded. That's
Right,
just a
because
good
it
practice.
but doesn't that also have an
Don't-
effect to the growth of the plant when it's coming? I remember you and Ryan
Okay,
talking about something.
sulfentrazone is rather damaging to the shoots of the grass, no matter how you slice it. It is damaging. And more mature stands of grass can tolerate that damage, but younger stands, not so much.
So do you think we should pull that out for our second round as well, or do you think we'd be all right to put that through?
I would put it through the second round, but then on a newly or recently seeded, I'd cut it down to no more than 4.
Okay, we
I
can do that.
mean, 6 ounces is okay, if that lawn's been there forever and it's an old lawn, it can take it. But if you just seeded it last fall, maybe not.
All right.
Maybe not. I mean, that's just good practice to, again, improve tolerance. I mean, that's the key word here, is improving tolerance of the turf to whatever you're trying to get done with it. And I'm not saying you can't spray it at all. I'm just saying to be thoughtful of what your tank mix is and start to go towards the things that are less damaging on a recently seeded or established turf area. It's all about kind of finding that balance, because there's some tank mixes that I know I don't do until the turf is well established. Okay, I just don't do them. But then if it's an older, more established area, I do whatever. All bets are off. I go
Try to
ham on
beat it out.
But well, it's a burn and return. It is a true burn and return, okay? I mean, I will burn shit up, because Brian Morales is asking, what's behind me? That is a bowling green kept as low as 1/10 of an inch. And that picture was taken before I dropped an app of Tenacity and Syncor on it. And so that turned brown for literally about 2 weeks. And then it grew back.
What else you got? It's 10:30.
That's all I got, man.
Well,
we've all been up working, so short night.
I thank you. I thank you for coming on. Keep me posted throughout the season. I know you will have a moment or three this season. Well, you'll have to give someone a call and be like, just listen to me for a minute while I unload everything that's going off in my brain, and that's why I love Aaron so much.
Let me speak to that, because this Discord group, we all lean on each other. If it's not Brent calling me to tell me that his truck blew up, or he's got a licensing issue, and he's just hooking an IV of alcohol up, freaking out, or we got Tiffway losing his mind about something, and it makes me feel better when I get
drove his machine into a lake.
Oh, you remember that?
When I didn't know that a steel green could be an amphibious landing vehicle. I didn't know that.
Know.
Nope.
Now we know.
Now I know. But
that was for the aquatic applications.
Yeah, but then likewise, not all is perfect in paradise, because I know I've told this group about how I had some crazy person that I literally told was crazy to their face, because they're asking me, when the wind is blowing 30 miles per hour and it's raining sideways, Ray, why aren't you here?
Yeah. Or we've done the second round of prodiamine, and they're saying, hey, there's some bare spots. Can I seed it? I just can't wait. I can't wait for this round to be over and to thicken up. And
just say yes.
I
really, yes.
Shane had two properties he went to today, and they had seeded. He's like, I didn't notice till I was like halfway through, because he's buzzing through, and all of a sudden he like drives over and goes, oh, that was seed.
Shoot.
But it was it's a second round. Right?
It doesn't matter anyway.
Doesn't matter anyways. I don't care if you put dirt down, it'll grow in that, and then it'll go bleh.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's gonna hit. I had another customer call me the day before. He sent me an email, and I started writing this scathing email, and I was like, I had to delete it. I'm like, I have to call him. Because I'm like, I can't just send this and blast it.
No, you know what? You know what, Lushy? Here's the thing for me is that I don't hide behind emails and texts. I'm a little different from your usual person because if I'm going to say something nasty, they are going to hear it. They're literally going
Right.
to hear it. In other words, they're going to be told, by me in person, you know what? You are fucking nuts. Okay? You're crazy. You are insane. You need a psychiatrist. I mean, I will do that. I mean, I will not do this email and text business. Never. And I tell people also, if you want to do the text or the email thing, it's because you're too fucking chicken to say it to my fucking face. Okay?
All right, let's get out of here. We're going to the after show. Patreon.com/burner return. Thank y'all. Bye.
Oh, Ray.